And
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's way too cold here, but
Where are you?
I am in the I always say I'm in the very flat conservative state of Ohio.
And
Um,
it's freezing. I hear you,
it's
but
so cold.
it's snowing.
It snowed the last couple of days. I think our building is older, so like our windows are really thin. So like
Oh,
we have a corgi puppy who has to go up out to use the bathroom off of our deck, so the door is open a lot. So we're just bundled up in lots of blankets and sweaters and stuff.
God. Is that where you are now? I love where you are, that space.
Oh yeah, this is
Oh,
our random little loft. I always tell my husband, I was like, this looks like the little perfect recording
I
studio.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. The brick in the back and everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um, Before I jump into some questions, I'm a big fan of yours. I think you are an actor
Thank
who,
you.
um, you always give us something interesting. Like I always say, you're the type of actor who like always throws back at us. If something is thrown to you, you always volley back, and I always think it's very fascinating to watch. I think you were robbed of an Oscar nomination for Compliance. I love that movie.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess sort of something that I kept thinking of when I watched this movie again, and I have to say, a lot of people, I think it's interesting when people are like, it's a movie about a school shooting, and I always say it's not really a movie about a school shooting; it's a movie about
Thank you.
forgiveness. And my husband actually, he watched it both times with me, and he agrees with me. Like it's that's the setting, but that's not what the movie really is about. Um, and
True.
I was wondering if you could tell me, do you think Linda and Richard met with any other parents?
I think that's a good question, and I don't have an answer for it.
Oh, okay.
To be honest with you, uh, that's a very good question. You know, Fran would know the answer. Um, I think it's a tough situation, meaning I don't know how many were willing to be in touch with us, except to, issue not death threats, but, you know, uh, whatever, however deeply people feel about such tragedies, one can imagine. So I know that Gail and I had been writing, Gail and Linda had been writing and found their way to be able to meet in person in the room. Um, but I don't know the answer otherwise, hon.
Yeah.
Sorry about
that. No, it's okay. I don't know why I kept thinking that. Like I was wondering if I was gonna like hear it somewhere in the text, but I didn't. So I kept wondering if there was something about, you know, Linda and Richard having to meet these two particular people. And I imagine that not a lot of parents would be willing to meet. So I don't know why I kept thinking of that.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I would say from the way it unfolded and then the playing of it, I speak for myself here, it felt like a first to me. Not really knowing how to start. I mean, do you start with the flowers? Oh God, that's ridiculous. What was I thinking? You know, she doesn't strike me as someone who she didn't in this, who had some practice with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I that the moment with the flowers hit me harder the second time, because it sort of felt like it's in on the surface, it's like a nice gesture, you're meeting somebody, but it's also like a gift that you would give a grieving mother 6 years later. Like, flowers are so associated with grief and strong emotions and funerals, and it really stuck out to me when I watched it the second time. I was curious if you could tell me if you think Linda has always been careful with her words, or if this is the instance that sort of like made her that way, just because there's obviously a lot of delicacy with how Linda wants to approach the situation. I was curious if that was something that she, or you thought that she was always conscious of.
I think that before this tragedy, she was most likely the go-between in the family, surely. Meaning between father and son, she was the one able to keep harmony of some sort, such as it was. You know, honey, you can't speak to him that way. He does. It sounds so judgmental and critical. You've got to get. There's an easier, better way for him. And you know, saying to my boy, just he doesn't mean it that way. You know, Dad. He doesn't know how to say things in a way that doesn't sound like an attack. You know, always. And then you're just as good as your brother. And then to the other brother, you know how it is when you have a special needs child, the other child is like, okay, I'm here too. I think she was always able to easily be the one with the words to comfort, the words to soothe. I think when this tragedy happens, everything she was, almost everything, shatters. Who she was in the past is no longer. She broke, I believe, in every way possible, that left her lying on the ground. And what she chose to do, which is one of the things I admire about her tremendously, is not to rebuild those walls, not to say, look, I did my best, and you can all criticize me all you want, you know, whatever walls she could have built. We're staying together as husband and wife. We're going to go through this together. We're going to, you know, whatever is anything but the absolute authentic remains of who she was is gone. What I'm trying to go ahead. What are you saying?
Oh no, I was gonna say it's such a huge incident, and it's such like shatters is such a great word for it, because it's sort of like there's no possible way that anybody, I can't imagine, can sort of like ignore it or pretend it never existed. Like that, the tragedy is something that it feels like, especially for Linda, you know, because I feel like we've never seen a character like her and Richard before. We've never seen that perspective. You know, this tragedy is in every single moment of their lives, probably forever. Everything they do. It's
yes. I was thinking. Am I interrupting you?
No.
You know, I don't know if I made sense of that last statement I made about the only thing that remains are the things you can't even, that you don't even know about yourself, which is to say your heart and soul, meaning the core, everything else gone. But as to what you were saying about this kind of tragedy, you know, it's to lose your son. How does anyone genuinely, as a mother of three, how does a person move forward? And secondly, when your child has caused the death of others and destroyed families that will never recover fully. And not only that, that my boy was in such despair that he took his own life, and I missed it. You know what I mean? So that level of tragedy, there are so many sides to it. Now, Richard, I think, I won't speak for Reed, he's very eloquent on the subject. I think walls are his comfort zone, period. He's not going anywhere near putting those down. No, that's not safe. Which is why the marriage didn't survive, of course.
Yeah, I keep thinking of that. I like how Reed is very he's very matter of fact, like the way that he will sometimes not jump on what Jason and Martha are saying, but like he sort of always volleys back with an answer that I thought was so interesting. And I don't know, I don't really have a point there. It's just a lot of
No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I found it, I don't know if the pandemic has anything to do with it, but my level of anxiety personally has risen on a number of fronts. that I was like, wait a minute, where did that come from?
Mhm.
I didn't, what's going on here? And my instinct to react emotionally to what someone says that I don't agree with. I really have
Mhm.
to just, whoa, you know, I know from my experiences in life that doesn't work ever. You have to
Yeah.
be able to hear it, take a breath. I don't think, I don't think Linda's husband is in that place.
Mhm.
And he also did all his homework,
Yeah,
meaning,
he did.
when I'm everything except letting go of all projection and falling apart and just lying in that place of profound grief.
Yeah.
You have choices, don't you? If something happens in your life, speaking of compliance, if something happens in your life where it finally dawns, like how she sees at the end, wait a minute, what?
Mhm.
He's not a detective.
Mhm.
This is all, and I facilitated it. You can, that's time for your life to break, because it has broken. Because who
Yeah.
are you? So you can either stay broken until you can little by little find out who you really are, or the walls go back. With her, the walls went back.
Mhm.
You would have done the same thing. You would have done the same thing. I didn't see what she clearly saw in that room. She saw what was happening. No, I didn't. What are you talking about? Wasn't there.
Mhm.
How's your cousin in St. Louis doing well? Oh, I know that part. No, uh, I think in Linda's case, she doesn't go anywhere near that. Life breaks. She doesn't have any expectation going in that room that forgiveness is coming her way. She wouldn't dream of asking for it.
Mhm. I have this like image in my brain almost of Linda. Linda especially. Uh, there's like I imagine her. For some reason, I think I thought of her leaving the church, and there's like a shot of you and Reed leaving together, and we see your backs, and it's sort of. I don't know why it made me think of this. Just thinking of Linda completely by herself, like even in just like an empty space, and just taking like one step forward slowly, every single step, whether she takes, minutes or hours between steps. That's what I thought of when I saw your character leaving. I don't know why. It was sort of just like she is very tentative and scared, and we understand why, and she's broken and heartbroken, and there's it's I don't know why that made me think of. I was very much conscious
That's
of.
very beautiful.
Oh, thank you. um, I
I
guess.
mean, that's a lovely way to, I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It was sort of. I was very conscious of how Fran, left, Jason and Martha in the church for a couple of moments while we see you both leaving. Some reason the separation between the two of you, maybe because we've seen you the whole film together. Um, that really struck me. Um, Sort of speaking of being in the room, just as a performer and an actor, I can't imagine what it was like to be in that space. And I'm very fascinated. I'm always personally fascinated with actors and their relationship to the space, sort of nondescript church room. I was curious if you personally ever had to leave after, like a cut was done, or did you want to stay in the space? I was just sort of fascinated with what your personal relationship would be like to the space and to that table.
Well, Fran was very intentional
Mm-hmm.
and careful and specific about how we wanted the space to be. And I don't know if this is, I think it is relevant. The four of us have a lot of experience, which is to say, well, in the theater. And that to me is where one learns about courage, not the only place, and staying at the table, metaphorically. When you come out on the stage and the first words out of your mouth and you think, good God, can I do this again? No. So learning when the impulse, I think you're freezing or I am. No, you're not freezing.
No, I'm
Can
just
you hear me, honey?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
All right. Okay, good. Uh, when the impulse is to leave the room or leave, because there was never that impulse in that situation. There were
Yeah.
times when we did, but generally just to use the bathroom or something. In between takes, we were together, of course, and there was a lot of laughter, probably a profound release is the word I meant. And we always, not disrespectful, my God, but then we would fall in because we knew we trusted each other and the space. We don't even remember where camera was much of the time. And again, that notion of stay at the table. When you feel a little bit like you've lost your way, which I'm sure Linda felt many times in that room, you take the breath and just say, stay. Don't just stay. So I think we all kind of loved that space. I thought it was a sacred space, no question. No question. And a protected space as well.
Yeah. I remember being in like theater school and even just thinking of like, doing exercises where you would have to, tell your character to like stay in the room or, think of something internally to make sure that your character understands why they have to have a stake in whatever fight they're fighting. And obviously with this movie, the stakes are very, 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 very high.
Okay, sorry, darling.
That's okay. I had one final question, really. So I didn't even realize we've been talking for like 20 minutes already.
We haven't though, have we?
Yeah, because we jumped on it like right at 2, maybe like 2:03. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. You have such interesting questions. Whatever
thank
you
you.
want.
That final scene, I'm sure a lot of people are asking you about that final scene where Linda comes back and tells that story. That broke me down the second time, especially that I watched it. It's I could feel the fear from Linda. I could feel the heartbreak from her, especially. I could feel the sort of regret and disappointment from her. There's a lot of things swirling in that final scene. And I really love how you go up to Gail and you get sort of like in her space. And there's like a second where you like touch her scarf that's on her body. It made me think of, these two women, these two mothers who have experienced such loss. I guess I just want you to tell me about that moment and sort of like your headspace with it, because I feel like the movie separates the two couples and then you come back and it's such a moment of pure pain, but optimism at the same time, if that makes sense. I just sort of want to know if you can comment on your headspace in that scene, because I feel like it surprised me both times.
Yeah. I just to follow that thought, what happened when you say optimism, because that's right, in the sense that it's profound and deep connection between two mothers who have lost what's more important than life to them. The thing about this experience is that, we shot that before we shot the room.
Oh.
Because that's the way things go sometimes. Everything in the room was in sequence. Everything outside of the room was before. That's just the way it had to happen. And I built a very, very close relationship with Linda. I wish I could find another way to say it, but I knew she was there. And I knew she would help me in the areas that I couldn't understand, couldn't describe or even articulate, to be honest. So just coming in there, and I don't even remember doing it.
Yeah.
Except I remember that it was connection, and that That was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I liked how she comes in by herself.
Yeah.
I really, really like that choice that Fran made with the script. And
Yeah.
it made me wonder so much what her and Richard as a unit and what Linda as an individual feels like she has to hold on to for herself to keep herself sort of sane in a way. But there's also, they have to, reveal a lot about themselves. Otherwise, the perception of them as a couple and the perception of them individuals gets picked apart by everybody. So I was really floored by that moment because it feels very, very honest in how you portray the fear and the anger at the situation and sort of at yourself, that I thought was very powerful. Okay. Yeah.
You know what? I think now that we're speaking of it, I think Linda, I don't know that I've ever said this, but I think she is very, very familiar now with what it means to be entirely vulnerable and entirely fragile. You know how there are times in our lives where it hits us, moments of, oh God, where we sort of fall apart or whatever. And just the gratitude when we come out of it.
Yeah.
Or find our way. I mean, oh, thank God I am the strong person I believe I am. She isn't that.
Yeah.
And it takes a tremendous, frankly, strength to be able to stay in that space and survive without hopes of being anyone but who she is in whatever way she can be.
Yeah. I feel like there is a tendency to, people think if you are very apologetic or you are vulnerable and you sort of express, your emotions, they sort of perceive you as like a weak person, but it's really not. It's really showing vulnerability shows incredible strength and shows a lot of fortitude, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I think that's all the time I have with you, Anne. Thank you so much for your generosity and your kindness. You're always, I feel like I can dissect every single part you've done, like Compliance, like The Handmaid's Tale. There is nothing surface level, excuse me, ever about anything that you do, and I just love you so much.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful, thank you for that, such kindness. And those questions were very unusual.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Never, I never want to ask anybody something they've been asked a million times, because I never want to do that.
You certainly didn't.
Oh, good.
Thank you that much.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for your time. Stay safe and
good luck to you. Yes, you too.